cool plays, but
Oh, yeah.
musicology just
Well, it gives you the tax write-off. That's awesome. What does your dad do?
Well, my dad stays in one place all day.
Okay, send me a flyer.
I think that's not strictly true. He's
Information.
the MIS department. He is the MIS department.
Am I
Oh.
on?
You have to be our own
Management
AD.
Information Systems at a factory on Long Island. And he does this thing where he's constantly walking around to give people tasks in person and to keep himself fit. And every time he has to go up the staircase, he runs up the staircase.
Nice.
All right, so the stream is up and running. I think we're ready to get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our fall town hall for 2019. We've been running these typically like twice a year, winter, summer, but I think we've settled into annual. So first one this year, so welcome. So just a quick overview of what we're going to run through tonight. Just a quick welcome and introduction of the chapter, who we are, what we do, in case you stumbled in here and aren't really sure why. Then we, kind of new thing we have is actual committees to break up some of the functions of the chapter. So we're going to have reports from the Events, Communications, and Finance Committee on what we've been up to this year. And then how to get involved with the chapter, whether that's volunteering or running in our elections coming up at the end of the year, or working and partnering with us. And then after that, we'll be open to questions, discussions. We'll hear from you guys. So first, who we actually are. IGDA NYC is the International Game Developers Association New York City chapter. We're part of an international association. We're one of 3 chapters in New York. Apart from us, there's Albany and Rochester, and also 3 student chapters. So a lot of IGDA activity happening statewide. The New York City chapter has been around kind of for forever, but for our purposes, we rebooted in 2015 with a whole new 5-person board. Previously, it was run by just 1 person, which was not enough people. So our goal is to have 5 people who are actively engaged in running the chapter. And these are the 4 currently active board members that we have right now. I'm Jess Haskins, I'm the chair. Matthias Sakuro, our secretary. Olga Polakina, our event coordinator. And you couldn't be here with us tonight, but we have Bill Pedurgio, who is our treasurer. And our mission is really to serve game developers across the greater New York City area, IGDA members and non-members. We try and make sure that all of our events are open and inclusive and free and available to people, whether or not you are a paying IGDA member or not. And we focus on the city, but our resources like the job board and news get shared and used by chapters and groups upstate and beyond. And we're, I think, one of the largest and most active chapters. Some of our stats there on audience numbers, like who is in IGDA NYC, is always kind of a nebulous idea, but there are 169 actual dues-paying IGDA members who have said that we are their primary chapter. We have over 1,000 members on our Facebook group. We have almost 1,500 members on our meetup group, and we have 2,500 people who subscribe to our newsletter, are kind of part of our broader audience. So any one of those buckets of people is part of the IGDA NYC community. So this is the mission that we adopted shortly after we rebooted the chapter. It's basically how we follow the IGDA's mission, which is connect members with their peers, promote professional development, and then we added the goal of celebrating basically New York City game development culture and really promoting New York as a place to make games and where great games are made. So broadcasting that message to the wider world. So we're going to go into committee reports. We're going to start, Olga's going to give the events committee reports. Events is one of the biggest things the chapter does. So this is the one where there's a lot to report on. So.
Hi, everyone. Okay. So Matt helps out. Actually, all of us work on this stuff together. It's a team effort. And then they're not here tonight, but also Oliver Hahn and Hannah Zubovic also give us a hand with just volunteering. And we're always looking for new volunteers. Okay, we got two different kinds of events. We have regular events, which is our open office hours and our ice cream social, and we have those either once a month or once every other month. And I've seen a lot of you at, I've seen you all at the Manhattan event. I haven't been to the Brooklyn event myself. And we, after a bit of a break, we're back to doing a feature event, at least one every month. We didn't have a space. And we finally found this awesome space at Microsoft, and they're really helpful and really accommodating, and it's a wonderful facility. And we are now planning on doing at least one event a month, a feature event. And that includes our IGDA talk series, which is either talks or panels, and also our feedback forums. Okay, recent events. So in the since January, we've had a couple of major events. We've had our Avalanche Studios double feature I've got with Hamish Young and Ronnie Murad. And then we had a panel discussion just the other week about how to start a game studio in New York City. And these were both great events, and everybody seemed to really enjoy themselves. I know I did. Also, we did a couple of other things. We just had somebody present. Francisco Gonzalez just presented a lecture on rotoscoping at the Annie Animation Nights just a couple weekends ago. And we just also had our first feedback forum here back in August, and we're planning on doing more of those because I think those are really super helpful things. And it's a really good way for everybody to just sort of bounce ideas back and forth and get feedback. Our regular events, we have open office hours, which is every other month. And did we just miss a slide? We missed a slide.
Looks like we have two of those.
We have two of those and not another. Anyway, the other one was a really pretty picture of Ample Hills Creamery. So you can use your imagination. I think there's something. Yeah, okay. Next. Okay. Coming up, we've got our YouTube channel. We're doing a live stream here, I hope. And that's the plan anyway. And we plan on doing more of this in the future. We are pretty short-staffed in the YouTube live streaming / doing anything with, this kind of thing. And I think that the YouTube channels is something that I'd like to really promote going forward. And I'd like to have more events online so that people can have access to them if they can't make it into the room. So again, not to sound neat or anything, but we really need volunteers. And I think that's pretty much, and then we're going to have another IGDA talks in November 5th. Bill is working on the roster for that, so I don't know exactly who it is, but it sounds interesting. And we're planning another feedback forum in December. And then thanks to Kira over there, we are going to be doing a spring jobs fair in conjunction with Hunter College. And thank you, Kira, for setting all of that up. And also we are planning on doing, I want to start doing play tests. I'd like to do them quarterly, so like every 3 or 4 months. And again, it'll be in this space. They have a lot of facilities here. I just went downstairs to look at them. It's going to be great. And I think that's pretty much it. Next is.
And just a few more words on the career fair too, which really is one of the, actually I'd say the most major undertaking that we do as a chapter. That's an event that we aim to have annually, and we've missed the past couple of years just to not being able to secure a venue partner and get it off the ground. But we run those as a games and digital media career fair, so games and games adjacent careers. And we've had local studios like Avalanche and Arcadium come out. We've had a few people even hiring for jobs not in New York. We had Disney come out one year. And we do a career clinic where volunteers will review resumes or do mock interviews or look at portfolios. And some of the things that we would like to add in the future are even like have short talk series and have other tablers there. We also have sometimes like local game schools and like career development services and stuff tabling in addition to the employers. So it really is our biggest, like most ambitious undertaking that we do. And we think that, you know, getting into the industry, getting stable employment, like finding a good job is kind of top of mind for the community. So that's what we try to come in and provide. And if anyone is interested in participating as a tabler or an employer or participating especially in that career clinic review, please do reach out and contact us because we're always looking for volunteers to help with that. So jumping into the communications committee reports, I would say other than events, communications is a big part of what we do. That's everything that happens sort of in the virtual space and not in a room like this. So the committee is really just me. So we don't have meetings and stuff, but we do have a pretty big volunteer communications team. First, I want to definitely give a shout out to Lori Hopping, our awesome social media manager who takes care of everything Facebook and Twitter for us and keeps us having that social media presence. She doesn't even live in New York, but for love of the community, she does it all remotely from Michigan, and we couldn't do it without her. I'd also like to thank Matt Fisher, who stepped up this year as the assistant editor on the calendar, our bulletin board, and the newsletter, and has been taking over more of the like editing and curatorial duties, so helping keep the calendar full of events and the board full of posts, and helping get that big newsletter out every month. And then Sandra Degnan, who copy edits the newsletter and is also a big part of getting that out. So all of these things can be found at our website, IGDA.NYC, hopefully easy to remember. I try to point everybody there, like everything we do is up there. One of the things that it has is our bulletin board with jobs and opportunities. So not just jobs, but internships, opportunities to exhibit, to show your game, programs, contests, game jams, hackathons, things like that, funding opportunities, grants, fellowships, things that you can apply for and get accepted to, maybe get money for your game or get like incubator space, something like that. So we try and keep that full of posts. Everything that we find out about goes up there. It's a great resource. It's also open for anyone to post. So all you have to do is just make an account and post it. So there's no fee to list a job or anything. So we encourage people to go there to broadcast their opportunities too. And then there is the community calendar. So this is not just our events, but this is a public Google calendar that has, again, all of the game-related happenings in New York that we find out about. And if you are someone who has a group that organizes events and you want to get that out to a bigger audience, you can also reach out to us to get calendar access. If you put your own stuff up on the calendar, that saves us the trouble of having to go and dig it up. So we're always open to having organizers collaborate on that. And since this is a Google Calendar, you can just subscribe to it, add it to your own feed and follow along events or view it on the website. And there's also the Twitter bot at NYC Game Dev that tweets out events 24 hours before they happen. So you can always get a stream of what's going on. And then the newsletter, which is basically just a big, we went through a bit of a name change and design and rebrand this year. It's now the IGDA NYC Game Dev Digest. And it's a digest of basically all of those resources for the coming months. So all of the upcoming events, recent jobs and other posts from the board. And we also publish news about New York game developers as part of our mission to celebrate what's going on in New York. So we use the hashtag NYMakesGames on Twitter and elsewhere. We encourage everyone to use it if you're posting about your own game launch or your news. Use that tag to get a boost and kind of get the word out. You can see here, Playcrafting has used it to promote the Killer Queen Black launch. So it's also, if you want to see some of the stuff that's being made, you can browse that tag. And on our website, we have a form where you can submit news to us. Let us know about your award win or your game launch or whatever. And we'll put that in our newsletter too and spread the word. And then our fledgling YouTube channel, which, as you can see, has a few subscribers and a few videos from some of our past events. And we're trying to make this more of a regular thing and hopefully have all of our feature events streamed and archived up here. And there's the very helpful link there, also known as just search for it on YouTube. I think you have to hit like a certain
You have to hit
subscribe
100,
count.
you have to hit 100.
Say, get us to 100 subscribers.
Yeah,
then
we're
we'll have
a third
URL.
of the way there, then we can get a real name.
Yeah. And then we also have these other online communities. There's Facebook, the Twitter, which again is run by Lori. We have a meetup.com group, which is another vector for people who only interact with the meetup ecosystem to find us. And then the IGDA just launched a new community Discord. So all of the IGDA is on this Discord, and we have a channel there. So if you want to go and join and go to the New York City chapter channel, that's there as well. So next up, a report from the Finance Committee, which I will also present. So along with Bill, who as the treasurer is the chair, I'm also on the Finance Committee. Basically, our job is just to look at the money going in and out of the chapter, and in the interest of transparency, we will share that all with you so you can see what we actually do with all the stuff that we get. So our current account balance is estimated about $500. It's a little bit tricky, the process to get account updates from IGDA, which is something that they've been working on for a while. So we haven't had an updated account balance in a while, but that's our best guess. So we have a few income sources. The biggest one is that as of, I think, last year, IGDA started funding chapters with twice annual grants based on member counts. So that is now the bulk of our operating funds. At a little over 150 members, we receive the maximum amount, which is 500 at each of those stages. So we get $1,000 a year from headquarters to run. This is also why if you're on the fence or considering joining the IGDA, or if you have but haven't looked at your account for a while, this is why it actually is important to join and name us as your primary chapter, because that's the number that they use to determine where those funds go. So if you do sign up, and especially if you already do have a membership, choose us as your chapter and make sure that that gets counted and we get those funds. IGDA also offers impact grants, which is a set amount of money that they will give for activities that have impact beyond just your local chapter. So for instance, anything to do with if you wanted to, say, have a YouTube channel and make videos and put stuff online, need funds for that, then that's accessible to anyone anywhere in the world. So that's something that they would fund through a grant. And we actually did receive a grant for this very computer and webcam and streaming equipment here. So that's how we got all this started up. And for a long time, the only funds coming into the chapter were just through the channel of Eventbrite donations. So it's just a small trickle. If you signed up for one of our events through there, you'll notice there's always a free option, and then there's a donate to the chapter. We just say $5 suggested, like kick a little tip our way. And for a long time, it was just like accumulating, like not spending any money and accumulating those small little drips of income until we got the chapter funding. And occasionally we do use sponsorships, usually just a one-time, like one-off for an event or something. We haven't been pursuing those very actively, so we haven't had any so far this year. But I'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment. So as for where it all goes, by far the biggest regular expense is the MailChimp fees for that newsletter that we send out. So the fees are tiered based on subscriber count. So as our audience grows, that's been going up. Currently, we're at $40 a month, or close to $500 annually. So about half of the funds that we receive. And when we get just like 200 more subscribers, that's going to go up to $60 a month. So we'll be spending over $700 a year just on the MailChimp. So most of that 1,000 that we get from IGDA goes towards that. There's also the small cost of the domain registration, IGDA.NYC, which, fun fact, has to be registered locally with a New York address because they don't give those NYC URLs to anyone. So we actually have to personally renew that and can't just hand it over to headquarters. And then events, sometimes there are costs for events. Most times we run them completely zero budget. But for the career fair, occasionally we print programs or supplies like pens and paper for the career clinic, refreshments. There's some costs with that. Again, we didn't have one this year, so no expenses for that. And sometimes we want to set aside a little bit for a holiday party, which is one of the few events we might spend money on to reserve a venue or to offer a bar tab. We did it again, zero budget for the one we had at the end of last year. And no concrete plans yet for one this year, but that's something that could be an expense. And then any discretionary purchases. So like I mentioned, we got the laptop and video equipment this year, but that came out of a separate grant and not of the chapter funds. And then if we got more money or things that are on our wish list, one thing we've been kicking around for a while is stuff to do tabling and have a presence at other events. So basically the standing banner or banner standing sign tablecloth thing for having booth, and probably having another laptop and monitor. For instance, if we wanted to go and demo and have a kiosk of games made in New York that people could play, we could use equipment for that sort of thing. And then just things to hand out and have at a table, business cards, flyers, or swag if you want to print up totes or teas or something for members or for events. And then the kind of big item on the wish list at a whopping $300 a month, but it would make our lives easier, is a team plan for Zapier, which is the automated service. Currently, most of what it does is run the Twitter bot for the calendar. So if we had, say, a team plan without a limit, then the bot would quit once in a while when we have too many events in a month. And also it would just let us automate and be more efficient with the posting events and posting to Facebook and tweeting things out and posting when there's a new post on the board. And we could have a lot of that automated and much more efficient, but we'd have to be operating at a bit higher level. Also, I'm trying to convince headquarters to go in for that one. So maybe at some point, headquarters will take over and offer Zapier plan. And beyond that, we could have, fancier events with paid venues and, refreshments, have a pizza once in a while, or, have a group tab somewhere. But that's kind of, frills that we do without for now. And then probably one of the most important things would be some kind of stipend or reward, something to give back to the volunteers who work really hard for the chapter. So basically sources, other sources of income would be partnership and sponsorship opportunities. So that could be either at the chapter level to sponsor us at the chapter to either get a partner spot in a newsletter or to sponsor a single event. Or if you have other ideas, we could come up with some kind of custom sponsorship. And we're always open to talking about that. There's also the IGDA level of sponsorship. So if you had a studio or a company and you wanted to reach the larger like IGDA level audience, if we make that introduction, then the chapter actually receives 10% of whatever that funding is. So that's a way to both help the chapter and get that bigger audience. So as a studio, if you became a studio affiliate, you could get membership, IGDA membership for all your employees and access to things like group health and life insurance options. Or if you have services for developers, like if you make engine middleware or something, and want to basically advertise to game developers, there's the opportunity to be a partner affiliate with the IGDA. Or just plan to sponsor the IGDA right out. They have lots of different like GDC sponsorships and newsletters and different options. So if you wanted to make that connection, we can make the introduction. And if you wanted to donate as an individual directly to the chapter, Eventbrite is the only channel we have right now. So you can select that donation option at any events, with or without RSVP. And we've started testing out the new plan of having a block of seats reserved for donation only to manage our capacity a little bit better. We'll see how that works out, but hopefully it leads to, especially for our in-demand events.
Is IGDA NYC, is it a registered nonprofit?
So we're not a separate entity. I forget what the exact entity of IGDA headquarters is. You're asking if donations would be like tax deductible.
It's
yes.
a 501c6.
You've got the answers.
But I'll write that up.
Yes. So I think they're not.
Business league, technically.
So yes, that is a question that comes up a lot. And I'm not sure what the actual answer is.
Okay.
Yeah, so the other option is a just direct donation to the chapter. And we don't have our own, like, we're not our own legal entity. We don't have our own bank account. So we just have an account with IGDA. But if you wanted to make a direct donation and like not pay Eventbrite fees or, a larger amount, then we can set that up as basically a donation in our name to the IGDA board. So enough about money. I'm going to pass it to Mattia now to talk about how you as a person can get involved with the chapter.
Yes, I'm just
Do you
going.
want to switch seats or just?
You want to sit? No, just you and I can switch.
I'll sit here then.
So I'm going to go over just a little bit about how folks can get involved just outside. Like we've already mentioned, our volunteers do a lot of work to help us kind of maintain some of the things that are really popular, like the newsletter, which has over, like just mentioned, over 2,000 subscribers. So we get to send 2,000 people every month. Just a big overview of what's going on all around the city for that month. And then the calendar is used very frequently and stuff like that. So those are really held up by volunteers. So we're going to go over a little bit about how folks can get involved with that.
You press hard. It doesn't matter.
There we go. So on our site, you can see the link right there, IGDA.NYC/team/volunteer. We have a bunch of descriptions about some of the jobs and some of the opportunities that we try to get help for and stuff like that, and some of the things that we always work on. So there are specific descriptions for each of those, also just a general application for folks who just want to help out. We try to make it as tailored to whatever your time, people's time commitment can be. So some folks can just put in just a little bit of time per week. Some folks can just pop in and out per event and stuff like that. We're pretty open to anybody who really wants to get involved, and we have all the details for that right at the link. So any general interest that anybody has or anything that's specific to the things that we have up there, all that info is going to be right on the site. And next, coming up pretty soon, we have our board of directors election. So that's kind of how all of us got to this seat. Jess is one of the OGs. We kind of started the chapter after a bit of a hiatus, and then I got elected in 2018. So my seat will be up and coming up, and then Olga is one of our most recent elects. Who, came-
2019, so I've got another year before I'm up for reelection.
Yeah, so it's on a pretty rolling basis. So every year, a different amount of board members will have their seats going up. And-
As of this year, I'm elected, so I'm no longer just the benevolent, unelected dictator.
Yep, so we have info about that on our site as well. You can see the dates that we have. It's coming up pretty soon. So we'll have the nomination starting, and then we'll go through a pretty normal nomination cycle that things usually go through. So we'll just start the nomination process, announce interest. Folks who want to get interested with voting or with electing themselves, want to come to the events and get a little more information about it and stuff like that. And after the nominations are finished, we go through the usual voting process, plugging into everybody else, getting as many people involved as we can to pick the right folks and re-elect whoever wants to stick around and reevaluate the goals of the chapter and stuff like that, and kind of start the whole process again. That's kind of the benefit of it being on a rolling basis. We get some new input every year.
Yeah, so they're 2-year terms, so every year, either 2 or 3 seats are up for election. So Olga and I were elected to terms starting this year, so we'll be staying on, and the other 3 seats will be open for election.
And next, we have community partnerships, which is something that is very much in the works, and that we've always kind of been actively going out to seek and to figure out how to put together in the best way. So how folks, organizations, individuals, anybody who's around can participate. We have cross promotion. So folks who are releasing games, folks who are running events of their own or want to run an event without IGDA, or anything in between. Cross promotion, we're always very up to sharing on social media, attending if we can, and helping any way we can. That goes both ways. So folks are running their own events, or if they want to help out with our events, we're pretty open to anything. And using the online board, like Jess also mentioned with the jobs board and the community calendar and stuff like that, if anybody is open to having their event or their launch or anything in between that they want to have on our calendar, on our job and opportunity board. Just already mentioned, we try to make that as accessible as possible for folks to reach out and either get us to do and talk about it with us if they need to, or take the initiative and put the job or put any posting they need to on their own onto the calendar and the job board. And with the event partnerships, finding space in New York City is a pretty hard thing to do. So we're always kind of on a rolling basis looking for interest and finding folks who are interested in helping us out with having events for spaces so we can kind of have more opportunities and more consistent events. Like Olga already mentioned with the bigger panel series and things that are more helpful and accessible to the community that we can have live streams for and kind of be a little more active in those spaces. And then, like we just had with Animation Nights New York's Best of Fest, one of our members, Francisco Gonzalez, gave a presentation about rotoscoping animation for a couple of his recent projects. If everyone hasn't already checked out Lamp Light City, it's a great project to check out, and he gave a panel about his work on that at the Animation Nights New York event this past week or 2 weeks ago. So stuff like that, we're always interested in helping folks out if they have an event or if anybody needs any sort of cross promotion help and stuff like that. That's always what we're looking to help with. And that is about it.
So yeah, We're open at this point. Questions about anything that we said or just things you would like to see the chapter do, ideas for the future? Yeah.
Will the funding eventually open up to any of the academic chapters, or will you say for potential chapters?
You mean the grants
Yeah.
twice a year? Yeah, I actually didn't know if it was available to student chapters or not. I guess it's just the professional ones currently. So, yeah, I can see that being a definite pitch to headquarters. Probably, I'm guessing they would give smaller amounts to student chapters, but also they probably have smaller numbers of members. So, it might be on the lower end.
We have 5 people actually registered for the IGDA, but mostly because there's not enough incentive for students to register with the IGDA.
Right.
Yeah, for instance, grant would give our game studio program students a lot of incentive, and not only as part of the fellowship program, because I don't believe credit for it, but it also give them incentive to sign up for IGDA for the entire year.
Yeah.
We have 4 to 6 GSP students.
Yeah, for that. That's just for it's like our competitive game design program that we run. They use like structure the ones that we engage at 100, but there's a lot more than just the 45.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would, be a good case to make, and, I think the chapter would probably support you in that. That means, that many more funded active groups locally that can pool resources and do stuff.
Nobody's complaining?
Yeah, as we were saying earlier, town halls are places where a bunch of people come together and complain about how things are being run. So, I said we're definitely open to hearing any constructive criticism
Or ideas,
for
or ideas for things that you'd like to see also, that we haven't mentioned yet.
I mean, have you guys been thinking of doing like great job of how to get an internship at a video game company?
I'm sorry?
How to get an internship at a video game company? Like having an event to teach you what you need to do.
I think that's a good idea. I think it would be a question, I see it more as a panel or as a talk, but it would be a
There's-
question of finding.
Yeah, the NYU Game Center runs this event called Strategy Guide, and we partnered with them in the past. I think they did it this year, or this past year, or part of it, but it's basically like breaking in for students. They have like a panel of people talking about like breaking into the industry and like what people are looking for like entry level or intern applicants. So we did like a version of our career clinic there. So it's one of the spots aside from the career fair where we've done the career clinic, and after the panel, students could bring their resumes and do the mock interviews. So yeah, that's a format that we've gotten a lot of interest in and like doing. And so yeah, that might be good to do just in the middle of the year on our own as a standalone thing.
Yeah, I'd like to
Separate,
I like the
separate
sound of
from
that.
the game center. One.
Yeah.
So we already have kind of all the parts.
No, it's just a question of putting together a panel of people that, maybe some HR people, maybe some other people.
Sorry, you had your hand up first.
So during the last event, we heard from the Empire State Development Committee about creating a booth at GDC as well as some other funding related things. Is there anything else you can say about that?
So other than what they shared, like we don't have any behind the scenes info with them on that. That is precisely the kind of event that we might be open to approaching them and saying, hey, how about in addition to the companies that you're individually working with, how about like an IGDA NYC booth, like at the New York booth? And that would be one of those cases where if we did have like, the extra equipment and we had, like flyers and things. Yeah, that's the perfect kind of space that I think we could bring the IGDA NYC like roadshow to basically have a table and tell people what we do and have like a Twitter feed of NY Makes Games scrolling behind us and let people play, Killer Queen Black and Lamplight City and all the cool games that are made in New York. So, yes, you
So
have
I
your
have
hand
two
up.
questions. Actually,
Sure.
I'm interested, I'm assuming all of you guys are student.
Yes.
So is the main thing that student types are worried about is that JOB, like getting a job, as opposed to say like mentorship or skill building?
I think
or et
I
cetera,
think
et cetera?
skill building is also really important for us. It's not just, so like, we try to give people incentives to come to a lot of the town hall meetings that you guys have. They're not always available, sometimes people just don't wanna go, which is understandable, but we try to get people to come when we can. And, but generally, like, that is the end goal, yes.
Students want jobs. Okay, cool. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And kind of, I don't know, maybe extending his question, but kind of reversing, as IGDA's executive, is there stuff that you would like to do that, maybe financially or any other barriers that are up, like some stuff you guys would like to do but just aren't able to do right now?
Yeah, so from like big picture perspective, the game for us has really been getting like stable operations that basically I keep talking about making the chapter like a well-oiled machine where we have the job board, we have the newsletter, we have like the social media groups, we have, you know, volunteers in place, you know, making those things happen. We have a regular calendar of events, and that it all just kind of ticks along. Like the procedures are in place and the resources are there, and we have, you know, our plans and just like basic operations. The chapter exists and is working. And that if, you know, any one of us or all of us like got busy or stepped down or became unavailable, that the chapter would keep going. That it was enough of a cohesive machine. So getting the regular funding and like having the volunteers that we do has been really helpful for that. At the same time, like we are really dependent on the few volunteers that we have that are doing those key things. So, you know, driving and incentivizing and supporting more people to have backup. So if like, you know, Lori's like, I'm sick of all this IGDA stuff and tweeting all day, like, bye guys, that we continue to have a Facebook and a Twitter because somebody else is there to like shoulder the load. So I would say that our priorities are still focused on building those operations and getting more people on board and on the team. And then beyond that, it's like once we have that sorted, then we can sort of look ahead and look to bigger initiatives. Like now let's really put some more energy into this NY Makes Games campaign, for instance. Let's see how we can, you know, get this out more into the stream of developers, like not in New York, and start advertising to other people to like raise consciousness that like, hey, people are making games in New York. Or other things that we've talked about are like youth and student initiatives. So like reaching out to and partnering more with people who are running either like hobbyist like game design programs or like kids like after school programs, like learn to make games, like that kind of stuff. Like reaching out and supporting those more and like getting people in to talk to those kids, or, you know, bringing them into the community or organizing events to bring them together to raise their visibility, something like that. Like that's another kind of big initiative that we've talked about doing. Other things are supporting developers more in, you know, more far flung than like Manhattan and Brooklyn. You know, doing more outreach and connecting to groups and events happening in like the Bronx or Queens or Staten Island, or, you know, so like kind of geographically expanding our reach. But we've been very mindful of like overextending ourselves. Like in some cases, it's better like to, you know, rather than, we're going to do like a youth program thing, but then like not really have the resources to show up and support it all the way and then burn ourselves out. Like, no, let's focus on getting like a monthly feature event happening before we do any of that stuff. So at the same time, we are interested in hearing like what are the most important big picture initiatives that we should be pursuing. Or maybe alternatively, something that we are pouring a lot of energy into, maybe you're like, nobody actually needs a job board, like stop doing that. Nobody looks at that thing. It's probably not that thing, but if there's something like that where, like for instance, we, this year we shut down, well, we didn't shut down, but we took our Slack private. We had previously promoted it as here's the IGDA NYC Slack, like here's a community channel that people can come and meet and discuss. And that was being underutilized. And rather than try and promote it and bring people in, we're just like, you know what, the demand's not here. And everybody's on Discord now anyway. There's a million other places. So this is something where we're not going to put our energy into. And we're just like, we just use it internally for organizing now. So yeah, we've been looking to focus our efforts where it counts, and also from the beginning not duplicate anything that anyone else is doing really well already. So for instance, we're not organizing like big game like expos because Playcrafting is here and they're doing that, and they have more resources to do that than we could. So instead we'll just say, hey, there's a great expo of Playcrafting, go see it, and like point attention there instead of trying to duplicate efforts. So that's sort of our big picture, like what we're thinking about when we decide what we want to try to do and what we're going to try to support.
I don't know if there are chapters that have a staff, but would that be an ideal situation to be able to have staff?
Pretty much, yeah.
Volunteers, that's our staff, so
Right.
we're
Volunteers.
more
Yeah.
boots, we can
Staff.
definitely use more boots on the ground. For sure.
Yeah, like the last thing on the wish list was like stipend or like rewards for volunteers. Like at the very least, we'd like to say like, hey, you've spent like 500 hours this month or this year like supporting us. Here's a $50 Starbucks gift card. Like here's something. But ideally, like yeah, maybe anything that we could pay minimum wage to staff who are like, who are putting the newsletter out or who are, moderating our online forums or who are running our video streams, things like that. I think if we had a higher level of funding, then that would, one, like whenever you can pay people for their work, that's the best. You should always try and do that if you can. And two, that would, solve that problem of getting the operations going. And like, if you're paying somebody, then they're probably not going to be as like, oh, well, I have like finals now, so I can't, or, this is, too much. I thought I could, but, I got busy. Like with volunteers, like it happens. So you have to kind of constantly be getting new people in and getting them up to speed. But we're also open to any ideas or suggestions, like, what would make you want to step forward and do this other than just, the warm, fuzzy feelings, like, or if you were considering it, like, what would be the thing that we could do or say or offer? The one message we've been trying to put out is that if you are, especially if you are like a student or if you're early in your career or starting out, or if you're between jobs, like service to a professional organization, I think looks really good on a resume. It's a good thing that you can do and like get out. Yeah, get out there, like come to events like this. If you're here, running our video stream, then you're also here like meeting the people that come and like making connections. Or if you're the one who's posting jobs to the job board, guess what? You get to see all of the jobs before anybody else does. And if you want to apply to them first and then put them on the job board, like you can do that too. So that, the role that we call job czar is kind of a high turnover position because it's usually been occupied by somebody who is actively looking for a job. And then when they find a job, they're like, I don't have time to do this anymore. So.
Is it possible to ballpark like an average volunteer time commitments in like the city?
It's pretty open to what
What's that?
capacity is.
I mean, it really at some level, like we'll take whatever we can get. If you want something that's very low commitment or very occasional, like we need somebody to help run the meetup group, which means, like when people apply to join the meetup group, like read their response to see if they're a real human person and not a crazy murderer, and then like click a button and let them into the group and like post
And
an
then
event.
once a
we
month,
put
and
it
then
up.
once a month post an event. So, it's probably an hour's work a month. But then there's other things that are much more labor intensive. So, I think when we say it's really up to you, it's, if you have a good idea of the kind of time that you're prepared to give, then I'm sure we can find a task that will fit that amount of time. Right?
If you wanted to do something more intensive, I mentioned Matt Fisher, who's been basically putting events on the calendar, putting jobs on the job board, and then compiling it all into a draft of the newsletter at the end of the month. And then I go and take the draft and do like increasingly less cleanup as he takes on more of that work, but just formatting it, adding like the big news things, and sometimes pointing out like, hey, this game just launched, let's add that, or hey, I just saw there's like 6 new jobs posted at this company, like let's add this to the board and like get it on the newsletter. But that's, that could, if we had more people, that could easily be broken up. Like one person could do just calendar, one person could do just the job board, one person could do just the newsletter compilation. And if we had more of a team, then, we could distribute the load a little bit.
I think we're good.
We're good? We're good? We done? Yeah. Is there anybody online?
It doesn't look
How
like,
can you tell? Were they on the side there?
Just
yeah,
next to the live button, the little
Oh.
people icon.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
yeah, I think that's it. So
All right.
thank you, everybody, for
Thanks,
coming
everybody.
and remarkably doing very little complaining at us for a town hall. But thanks very much.
Come up with something next time.